Be'ezrat Hashem, na'aseh v'natzliach. I want to welcome you to another session of our Rosh Chodesh class, Rosh Chodesh Iyar. This class is called Ascending While Mourning. Very, very interesting lens on a time period that comes around every single year, and we sometimes don't give it as much attention or importance as the way we should. In order to move forward with this understanding, we'll have to take the time period that we're in, interlace it with Rosh Chodesh Iyar to get several layers of understanding and then a major takeaway at the end of the class, Be'ezrat Hashem Im Yirtzeh Hashem. Before we get started, I'd like to give honorable mentions and dedications to the following people. Yitbarach Shemo Shel HaKadosh Baruch Hu. I want to give once again a blessing to our gracious host, Yehudit Ben Shabbat, for hosting our Rosh Chodesh class consistently and loyally for all these years. May Hashem bless her and her family. Be'ezrat Hashem, that Hashem bless Meir, Noam Elimelech, Meir Asher, Shammai, and all the family to be healthy, wealthy, happy. That Be'ezrat Hashem they go higher and higher in Avodat Hashem. Be'ezrat Hashem that they give Hatzlacha, hen beruchaniut, hen bagashmiut. And the Be'ezrat Hashem, you always be on the side of the giving. May God bless you, Yehudit Ben Shabbat. Also, for our good friend, Pessi, Penina, and Dov, that are alongside Miriam, Batya, are sponsoring tonight's class for the Tzlacha of Shlomo Ben Brindel, Miriam, Pessi, Penina, Yehuda, Aaron, Shlomo, Rachel, Ruchel, the children of Pessi Penina, also Natalia Bat Brindel, Roy Iyar Ben Chagit Naomi for his refuah, Shira Devora Bat Sarah Chaya, Ben Yomin Dov Ben Amuna, Cheryl Bat Yehudit, Chaya Ping Bat Sarah, Levi Raphael Ben Olga, Hadar Bat Rivka, Yaakov Ben Dina, also for the refuah shelema of Heleni Orna Bat Chen Chana, and for all Klal Israel for their physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual health and strength. Thank you very much. Be'ezrat Hashem, that we begin our learning, L'Shem Shamayim Ve'Besimcha. So Iyar is a very unique month because it's the only month where every single day there's a level up in spirituality. Every single day has some sort of spiritual energy that you can tap into. As a matter of fact, Iyar is the middle of the Omer period. The Omer period in general is an auspicious time in the year to get a spiritual upgrade. It starts in Nisan, which has 14 days of the Omer. Then you have 30 days in Iyar, and then you have another 6 days in Sivan. So the spiritual upgrade of the Omer, the bulk of it happens in this month. The bulk of it happens in the month of Iyar. Now this 50-day spiritual envelope has many layers. I'd like to go through 4 different layers of the exact same time period. So you can see that this counting of the Omer, that to some people on an elementary level is counting till 49, and on the 50th day you get a cheesecake on Shavuot. We can't do that anymore. You have to understand that there's a much higher service of Hashem during this time period. It's not just about counting the weeks. That can only serve you up until elementary school, or maybe middle school, or maybe even high school. But once you get into adulthood, you definitely need to have a better, a stronger, a more sophisticated, a more mature understanding of the Omer. First, let's learn the initial time period. How did we get this 50-day time period? Well, it started with Pesach. The time period of 50 days between Pesach and Shavuot is called the Omer. This time period actually mimics another 50-day period of the Exodus, of the Yetziat Mitzrayim, the Jewish people leaving Egypt, on their way to receive the Torah. The time between Yetziat Mitzrayim and Matan Torah is exactly the time between Pesach and Shavuot. It's the same 50-day period. That 50-day period also served as a birth of a nation. That's the time when the Jewish people became a nation. We know that when a Kadosh Baruch Hu created the world, Bereshit bara Elokim et hashamayim ve'et haaretz. If you look on the first word in the Torah, Bereshit, Rashi on the spot brings Bereshit, Bet Reshit, that the whole world got created for two. Bet Reshit, two firsts. What are they? Torah and Israel. That the whole world got created for the Jewish people, and the whole world got created so the Torah can be followed, can be lived through the Jewish people. Now, in order to get Am Yisrael is a journey. The journey to the Jewish people took some time. In order for the world to produce the Jewish nation, it started from Adam HaRishon. Adam HaRishon sinned from eating from Etz Hadat Tov V'Ra. And from that time, up until Noach, there was a decline in civilization. From Adam to Noach, it just got worse and worse and worse. People started to worship idols and go against the way of God. To the point that Kadosh Baruch Hu pressed reset on the world and started all over again with one family, Noach's family. Ladies in the back, please, there's no talking. Thank you. Once Hashem started the world again with Noach and his family, another 10 generations was from Noach to Abraham. And Abraham was the first person to recognize Hashem as the creator of the world. And he was the first patriarch, the first Av of the Ummah. And began the process of the Jewish nation. Abraham had 2 children. He had Yitzhak and he had Ishmael. Ishmael was the psolet, Yitzhak was the ikar. Ishmael was all the chaff, all the negative that was in Abraham Avinu, and Yitzhak was the main, all the good that came out from Abraham Avinu. Yitzhak had 2 children, and they were Yaakov and Esav. Once again, Esav was the psolet, and Yaakov was the ikar. And from Yaakov came the 12 tribes, the 12 Shevatim, Bnei Israel. That was the beginning of our nation. And when we went down to Egypt, a family of 70, after 210 years, we became a multitude of people, millions of Jews. The family of 70 multiplied to be millions of Jews in Egypt. And after 210 years in Egypt, which Chazal call Kur HaBarzel, the iron furnace that most people use to purify gold. They put extreme heat in order to purify gold. That's the same process that the Jewish people went through. They went through this purification process in Egypt, where they were working for, they were a slave workforce for Paro, a slave workforce for a dictator, for a tyrant. And later on they came out to be servants of the Creator, spiritual servants of the Kadosh Baruch Hu. And by doing that, they went through this process of purification of the seed of Abraham, Yitzhak, Yaakov, of all mankind. Starting from Adam to Noach, Noach to Abraham, Abraham, Yitzhak, Yaakov, the 12 tribes entering Egypt. As a matter of fact, they tell us that they Kur HaBarzel, that the iron furnace, what does Barzel stand for? Bilha, Rachel, Zilpa, and Leah. What is it? That they had the ability to also purify the lineage of the mothers of Rachel, Leah, Bilha, and Zilpa. All came from one household. The household of who? Lavan. Lavan was an evil crook. And that DNA was in them as well. So they need to get purified there as well. So just like we went from Abraham, Yitzhak, and Yaakov, and we took out the Ishmael, we took out the Esav in Egypt, we also took out all the negative DNA from the side of the matriarchs. And just when we get to that point, after 210 years, we arrive at this point of Yetziat Mitzrayim, the Exodus, leaving Egypt. And just like we are so familiar with the story since we just came out of Pesach just a few days ago, we come to the splitting of the sea, Kriyat Yam Suf, as Chazal also consider it as the birth canal to the new nation. Now that they went through the process, now they went in as a family of 70, and they're coming out a nation. But to become a nation, they have to start a journey, leaving Egypt, through Kriyat Yam Suf, through the birth canal, and on a 50-day journey to receive the Torah by Har Sinai. A moment that's 2,448 years in the making. And the last 50 days of this journey is the journey that we're in right now. That's the time period that we're in right now. The time between Yetziat Mitzrayim and Matan Torah. The time between Pesach and Shavuot. And during that time period, another incredible thing happened. That the Jewish people at the time of Yetziat Mitzrayim were on the 49th level of Tum'ah. The lowest level you can reach. The Arizal reveals to us that the only reason that they had to get out of there quickly on the 49th level, why? Because if they would stay there for 1 minute longer, they'll seep into the 50th level, and there's no way coming back from that. So on the day that they leave Egypt, they're on the 49th level of Tum'ah. But begins their journey to Matan Torah, and there begins their journey of healing, physical healing and spiritual healing. And they start to do the process of getting out of one gate of Tum'ah and entering one gate of Kedusha. Getting out of one gate of Tum'ah and getting into a gate of Kedusha. In and out of 49 gates of impurity and entering 49 gates of holiness. And that's what they did for a 49-day process till they got to the point that after 7 days in Yetziat Mitzrayim, they reached the level of prophets, as it says that the maidservant on the sea saw what Yechezkel ben Buzi didn't see as a prophet. And 50 days later, and then 49 days after Yetziat Mitzrayim, they were on such a spiritual high. They were they were able to elevate themselves to such a level that they finally got to the point where they're worthy of Yetziat Mitzrayim, worthy of receiving the Torah, as the Torah is called in the Midrash, Chemda Genuzah, the sweet treasure of a Kadosh Baruch Hu. He took it out of his treasure house that he was saving for Tatka'ad Dorot, 974 generations. HaKadosh Baruch Hu was holding on to the Torah until the Jewish nation formed itself and was worthy of receiving the Torah. And that happened on the 50th day on Shavuot in front of Har Sinai, as the Am Yisrael was Am Echad Belev Echad. And the HaKadosh Baruch Hu made his nation Beni Bechori Israel. We got the title of Am Segula. This month is famously known for healing. Ani Hashem Rofecha. It actually comes from a pasuk of after Yetziat Mitzrayim, and it says that, I'll read it for you from the Mechilta. Amar Rabbi Elazar, שכל עם ישראל שעמדו לפני הר סיני לא היה בן סומין. It says when the Jewish people went in front of Har Sinai, there was nobody deaf. There's nobody blind. And as it says, וכל העם רואים, and nobody was a mute. As it says, ויענו כל העם יחדיו. And nobody, I'll say it in English, וכל העם רואים, and all the nation is looking, meaning that their vision was repaired. ויענו כל העם יחדיו. Nobody was a mute, everybody can speak. As it says, כל אשר דיבר השם נעשה ונשמע. They were willing to do, and as they heard. Not only that, לא היו בהם חגרים. Nobody was a limp. You know that a lot of their bones were broken by the hard labor that they had with Paro. As it says over there, ויתייצבו בתחתית ההר. And even says, ולא היו בהם טיפשים. And there were also people that were not on a very high intellectual level, but at that time, שנאמר, אתה הורית לדעת, meaning everything got healed, both the physical and the spiritual. That's what happened during this time period. Every single Jew got healed during this time period. And that's the spiritual energy that is available to us for healing as well. So we see over here that when the Jewish people got to the point of being called an Am Segula, they were a nation that was redeemed from slavery, a nation that was able to receive the Torah, was worthy of receiving the Torah, as was Am Echad Belev Echad. And we know that the only reason why Kadosh Baruch Hu told us that we are the chosen nation, Am Segula, which I do believe that a lot of people have a mistaken understanding what is Am Segula, the chosen nation. The chosen nation does not mean that we're better than anybody else. We're chosen. That's a very pompous approach, thinking that you are better than somebody else. Jews have to be humble. That's not a humble outlook on life. The chosen nation means that you were chosen for a role. You were hired. Hashem chose out of all the people in the universe a small group of people to reflect His ways in the world. He hired us to go into the world and to be a light unto the nations, as we learned so many times in Tomer Devorah. In the Hagdama, the introduction to Tomer Devorah, it says over there, Ra'ui ha'adam ledamot et kono. That our purpose in this world is to reflect God, to emulate God in this world, to show all of God's ways in human form, and to be a light unto the nations. This first layer of understanding shows a family that grew into a nation and matured to be the chosen nation. And this is also hinted in the zodiac sign. If you look at the zodiac signs, we see the last month was Aries. This month is Taurus, and next month is Gemini. Last month was Aries, Taleh. It's a small little lamb. That's us. The birth of a little baby lamb. The birth of the nation who's called God, the flock of Hashem. Sonim Ariti. We are called the flock of God. That was the birth last month. This month, it's Taurus, Shor. We matured. The process that we went through in the 50 days, we matured into a better version of ourselves. We're stronger, we're better, we're holier. And next month, it's going to be Gemini, Teomim. Teomim means we're at the point. Teomim is twins. We're at the point that now we can coexist with one another. We became a nation. We know how to deal. We have rules. We have guidelines. We have mores. We have the Torah. We have 613 ways to emulate God in this world. But twins are identical. Most twins are identical. The reason why the next month, the month of Sivan, the month of Matan Torah, the astrological sign, the zodiac sign is twins, because finally there's someone that can twin God in this world. Somebody that can emulate Hashem's ways. We're on a journey. We're on a journey. And this 50-day journey that we're on, this was just one layer of seeing it. There's a second layer to this 50-day journey. This one is more personal to us. There's this healing energy that's available during this time period. Everybody knows the Iyar as the famous acronym. Aleph, Yud, Resh, Ani Hashem Rofecha. Aleph, Resh, Ani Hashem. Healer, I am your doctor. And we know that this healing energy is both for the physical and the spiritual. And in previous classes, even in last year's Rosh Chodesh class, we said that the physical side of our existence is just a reflection of our spirituality. Who we are is really our neshama. Our neshama is who we are. That's the one, we are physical beings on a spiritual journey. This journey ends. The body goes back into the ground. The neshama continues. The neshama, when it wants to tell you that something is off with you spiritually, it starts to give you symptoms physically. So if anybody wants to heal physically, they have to figure out their spiritual ailment first. And this is the time period we're able to heal both physically and spiritually. This is the time. Because we work on our spirituality, which automatically heals our physicality. There's this healing energy that's available in the month of Iyar, and in this 50-day journey, the journey to receive the Torah again and again and again and again. And everybody asks the question, why do we have to receive the Torah again? Didn't I receive it last year? Didn't we receive it thousands of years ago on Har Sinai? Why do we make such a big deal about Matan Torah? Because if you are living a Torah lifestyle, if you're connected to the Torah, if you're living life on a spiritual frequency, you know that the Torah does not stay stagnant. You cannot go through life with a third grade understanding of Hashem. You have to work on yourself year after year after year, acquiring more knowledge, acquiring more understanding of the Creator, of the Torah, of the world. And as you get a better understanding of the world, you receive the Torah on that level. And you go another year, and you receive the Torah on that level. And you go another year, and you receive the Torah on that level. As long as you're working on your spirituality and you're constantly striving for growth, every Matan Torah is a new acceptance from a higher understanding. And that's the journey that we're on. We're on the last leg of that journey. We're 50 days away from receiving the Torah again from the new understanding that we've acquired in this past year. And anybody who's put in the work knows that the Torah from 5 years ago is not the Torah from 10 years ago. And not from 20 years ago. Anybody who puts in the work sees that the world is different once you acquire more knowledge, more wisdom, more Torah. This spiritual elevation that we're looking for is a year-round work. Baruch Hashem, this group here, we do it every single month. We come in and we try to understand what is the spiritual work of the month, as each month is a different work. Remember what we spoke about on Nisan? Remember what we spoke about on Adar? It's completely different from what today is. Why? Because every single month is a different spiritual energy. This month happens to be that we're on the way to receiving the Torah. We're literally on the last few days before the receiving the Torah again. And what is the process? What is the process? What is the counting of the Omer? Remember, why did Hashem take us out of Mitzrayim? We say it every day. Liyot lachem le'elokim. Hashem took us out of Egypt, not so we can live in Miami. Hashem took us out of Egypt so He can be our God. So we could follow His ways. Otherwise He would have left us there and we would have been slaves till today, chas v'shalom. He says, I'm taking you out of Egypt, Liyot lachem le'elokim. We said, okay, na'aseh v'nishma, let's do it. Great partnership. You save us, we become God's chosen people, you tell us what to do, and we're all happy. And one of the things that Hashem told us what to do is, besides following the ways of Hashem, we were chosen for a role, we were chosen for a job, we were chosen for a task. Liyot or lagoim. To be a light unto the nations. That's part of the job description. That's part of what Hashem made us Am Segula. It's like a special task force that gets hired for a job to follow 613 specific rules, emulating God in the world, showing God's ways in the world, and by doing that, being a human example of God's ways, we illuminate the world. We become a light unto the nations. Imagine if you had a business and you hired 100 employees. And out of those 100 employees, only 20% show up. 80% don't show up. You think you'll stay in business? It's very hard to have a workforce that doesn't show up to work. Imagine having a company and 80% of your company doesn't show up to work. That's the harsh statistic of the Jewish people today. Pew Research shows that 80% of the Jewish people are secular, unaffiliated, not connected. Only 20% are religious, Orthodox, chozim b'tshuva, mitchaskim. We always like to say after October 7th, maybe it's 70-30. But nevertheless, if your son comes home with a 30 on the test, did he pass or fail? Fail. We're not doing so good as a nation at the moment. We're not exactly or laguim. So when we get into this time period of the Omer, we begin to sharpen up our understanding of being a light unto the nations, of who we are as Jews. Who is God? What is God? What are His ways? And when you try to think about that, and I speak from experience, that when you ask somebody, who is God? They'll give you these top 3 answers. God is Borei Olam. He's the creator of the world. God is Melech Malchei Amlachim, the King of all kings. And God is Abba Sheba Shamayim. He's my Father in the Shamayim. Okay, past that, what is God? You hit a wall. So how are you supposed to emulate the Creator if you don't know the Creator? How are you supposed to show the world what God is if you don't know yourself what God is? So comes the Omer period, and it teaches you who Hashem is, and you learn His ways in order to emulate them in the world. What are God's ways? It's very simple. The Sefirot. The Sefirot teach us or reteach us who is God, how God interacts with us, and once we learn how Hashem is, we live it out. So where is he now? Okay. Can you call my wife? He has the number. Baruch Hashem. Tell him it's Rosh Chodesh Iyar, Ani Hashem Rofecha. Can I give you the number? You have it? Okay. All right. What are God's ways? The Sefirot. Sefirot is that weird chart that sometimes you see and you never understand. It's got the 3 circles on top and 7 circles on the bottom. We can use the human body to describe it. The keter, which is the head, which is the top, is chokhmah, binah, vadat, malchut. This is all the intellectual sides of the Creator. That's the top. We don't deal with that in the Omer. We don't deal with that on the Omer. In the Omer, we deal with the 7 emotional attributes of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, which again, on the human body, we can show it as Chesed, Gevurah, Tiferet, Hod, Netzach, Yesod, and Malchut. These are all 7 ways of how HaKadosh Baruch Hu interacts with us in this world. For example, for those of you that think that this may be a little bit above your level of understanding, let's simplify it. Let's simplify. What is Chesed? Chesed is another word for loving kindness. Hashem has loving kindness, benevolence, and He interacts with us in a loving way. Gevurah is justice, discipline, restraint, awe. Tiferet is beauty, harmony, compassion. Netzach is endurance, fortitude, ambition. Hod is humility, splendor. Yesod has to do with bonding and foundation. And Malchut with nobility, sovereignty, and leadership. And these are all attributes of the Creator. Now, how does it work in the Omer? So there are 7 attributes, and we have 7 weeks. So we do surgery. We take the first one. We take Chesed, And what we do with Chesed is we explore every part of God's loving kindness. How? We take the other attributes and we plug them in. So we see how is Chesed sheba Chesed, Chesed sheba Gvura, Chesed sheba Tiferet, Chesed sheba Netzach, Chesed sheba Hod, Chesed sheba Yesud, Chesed sheba Malchut. Now you've explored every single aspect of God's loving kindness on week 1. And now that you've learned God's loving kindness thoroughly, now go out into the world and live it. And do that every single day for the next 7 weeks. And you dissect each one 7 ways. Gevura sheba chesed, Gevura sheba gvura, Gevura sheba tiferet, so on and so forth. You get the message. You get 1 and you divide it by 7. You get 1, you divide it by 7. And these 49 attributes of God is how you get to know God, rediscover God. And once you do that process, now you can go out into the world and emulate God. Your job is to emulate the Creator. In your home, in your marriage, in your child raising, in your business, in your community, in the world. That's the job of the Omer. Not counting to 49 to a cheesecake on Shavuot. It's a little bit more sophisticated. It's a little bit more mature. It's a little bit more spiritual than just counting. Having said that, during this time period, you'll notice that we also work on refining our middot. We work on bettering our ways. Notice that every single shul has now started to read Pirkei Avot, the ethics of the fathers. Why do we read that? Why is it so important? Because it's a compilation of spiritual giants that give us a list of ways how to navigate ourselves in the ways of God. Pirkei Avot. And we're instructed specifically on this time period to read Pirkei Avot. Why? Because we're on a journey to receive the Torah. V'derech eretz kadma laTorah. Knowing how to interact with the world comes first. As a matter of fact, another learning that's done during this time period is Memchet Kinyanei Torah, the 48 ways of acquiring the Torah. So much different ways of learning that we have during this time period. Why? To refine our character, refine our attributes, refine our middot before receiving the Torah. How do you refine your middot? You look at God's middot. You look at God's attributes. You learn His attributes, and then you emulate it. That's the Omer. On layer 2. So anyone who's looking for a true spiritual upgrade, this is the time for deep work on all aspects of our emotional attributes in the physical realm. And that's going to be synchronizing with the spiritual realm. That's what's unique about Iyar. Both the physical and the spiritual experience healing. And the healing comes through the spiritual work, because the ruchaniut is what heals the gashmiut. It's the spiritual healing that promotes the physical healing. The physical healing is just a sign. It's just a blinking light bulb on your body letting you know something is off with your Yiddishkeit. Something is off with one of your 248 or 365 mitzvot aseh ve'lo ta'aseh. Just giving you a sign on your toe. Just giving you a sign in your eye. Just giving you a sign on your back. Giving you a sign on your neck. But the problem is a spiritual problem. And this is the time to heal the spiritual and benefit as a bonus the physical. Because that's what happened to the Jews when they left Egypt. They were broken down slaves that turned out to be spiritual giants, physically perfect 50 days after leaving Egypt. Which brings us to the third layer. Every single month has a specific letter. You guys are all familiar with this. We've done this before. There's a certain tribe, a certain stone, a certain letter, a certain a sense, a planet, so on and so forth. The letter for the month of Iyar, the letter that's connected to the month of Iyar, is the letter Vav. And the letter Vav is famously known in Judaism as Vav HaChibur. It's a connecting letter. Oh, how convenient that the month of Iyar has a letter that corresponds to connection, to connecting. And what is the connection that we're making? What is the connection in the month of Iyar? What is the connection that the letter Vav represents in the month of Iyar? It's the connection, good, could be, the connection between Ben Adam Lamakom and Ben Adam Lechavero. A concept that maybe you only hear in Elul, right before Rosh Hashanah, make up with everybody before you go through Judgment Day. Make up with everyone before you go to Bet Din and Nashamayim. But all of a sudden, we're presented with Ben Adam Lamakom, Ben Adam Lechavero, in the month of Iyar, in the 50-day spiritual envelope between Pesach and Shavuot. Why? Why is it making an appearance here? Because Ben Adam Lamakom, between a person and the Creator, we know that we're supposed to emulate God. How are you going to emulate God? How are you going to mimic God in this world? You have to go through the process of dissecting the 7 emotional attributes one by one to check. How is your chesed shebachesed? How is your netzach shebahod? How is your hod shebahod? Are you balanced? Are you missing something? It's like if you ever go to an oil check, oil change, they always pull out this sheet, 100-point test. And some way, somehow, they always come with you failed 3 things. And it's always the filters. I don't know if you've ever been, they always do that. The same thing all the time. They change your oil, they try to get you for the filters. Right? It's the same thing over here. What happened? It's a 49-point check. Well, chesed b'chesed, oh, I have that. Chesed shebagvura, oh, I have that. Chesed shebenetzach, oh my God, I don't have this at all. What is this? Let me learn it. I have to apply it. I have to add it. And if out of the 49 attributes that you find with the 7 attributes times 7 weeks, you find 10, 12, 15, or maybe even just one that you're not familiar with, or you're weak on, or you're not strong, then what do? You learn on it, you internalize it, and you live it out. That's the whole thing between Ben Adam Lamakom. That's what Hashem made you part of the Jewish nation, and not and be part of any other nation. Then we have Ben Adam. Okay? Then we have Ben Adam Lechavero. Ben Adam Lechavero means between you and another Jew. Now that you learned the ways of God, now that you have the 49 ways of Hashem, how are you acting? How are you interacting with another Jew? Meaning, if once you know the ways of Hashem, you know that you have to live out and interact with everyone that you know in your inner circle, whether it's your family, it's your children, it's your in-laws, it's your friends, it's your employees, it's your co-workers, it's a random Jew in Kosher Central. And then, how do you interact with the world? Now that you've acquired the 49 middot of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, the 7 middot divided by 7, now how are you living it out? So, there's dual pathways. There's 2 ways to look at this. Ben Adam Lamakom, between you and God, you're going to benefit from a connection, Vav HaChibur. You're going to get closer to Hashem. You're going to know Hashem better, because every single day you're learning a different attribute about God. And by doing that, you're going to come to Matan Torah, the receiving of the Torah on Shavuot. And why is it called Matan Torah? Because the word matan has the root word of matana. It's a gift. And on Shavuot, you get a gift. And what is that gift? It's the gift of Torah. The gift of Torah for the entire upcoming year. Let me explain to you how it works. On Shavuot, you get Matan Torah, the gift of Torah. This concept of the gift of Torah actually comes from Moshe Rabbeinu. You know that Moshe Rabbeinu, after 40 days and 40 nights learning from HaKadosh Baruch Hu, so at the end, HaKadosh Baruch Hu tells him, okay, pop quiz, what do you know? And he tells him, nothing. Nothing? Nothing. Okay, but you know what? A for effort, you tried. I'm going to give it to you as a gift. Moshe Rabbeinu's entire Torah was a matana. The fact that he made the effort, that he tried, that it was amal haTorah, that he toiled in trying to understand, that's what Hashem gives credit to. The understanding, meaning the desire, the work, the effort that you're putting in, that's what Hashem is looking for. The understanding is always a gift from God. That's why when we go up to the Torah and we bless Baruch Atah Hashem, what do we say? Noten HaTorah, the one that gives us the Torah. What do you mean? We got it. Thousands of years ago, Har Sinai. No. Every day Hashem decides which Torah you get and which Torah you don't get. So this 49-day journey between you and the Creator is an upgrade of understanding God. It's to see what you did with last year's gift, and comes Matan Torah is your Torah for the entire coming year. Actually, let me put an asterisk. The potential of all your Torah learning for the upcoming year. You got a gift. It's an interactive gift. Hashem gives you the full potential to all this Torah. It all depends if you're going to make the effort to attain it. That is one pathway. The second pathway of this 49-day period is how are you interacting with God's children? How are you interacting with other Jews? Before forging a connection with Hashem, you have to first have a connection with His children. Think about it if you're a parent. If somebody is being nasty to your kid, you're going to invite him over for a barbecue? You're going to have a drink with him? You're going to have him for dinner, come for Shabbat dinner? The guy just punched out your kid. You're going to do what? You're going to stay friends with him? You're going to invite him? No. You can't have a relationship with the parent if you don't have a relationship with the child. Same thing with Hashem. Don't think you can do ben adam lamakom. Don't think that you can now have this separate journey of the 50 days between Pesach to Shavuot just with Hashem, where He looks and He says, but how are you with your wife? How are you with your brother? How are you with the 5 people that are in your Chavruta lesson? How are you in your minyan? How are you in your community? How are you in your workplace? How are you with other Jews? Did you take the 49 days to acquire God's emotional attributes and apply it to other Jews? Derech Eretz Kadma Torah. You want to go on a spiritual journey between Pesach and Shavuot to receive the Torah, but before receiving the Torah comes something else. Something precedes the receiving of the Torah. What is it? Derech Eretz. You have to know how to interact with other Jews before you can come get your spiritual gift of Matan Torah for the upcoming year. Derech Eretz Kadma Torah. Interacting with other Jews correctly, manners, Yiddishkeit, having the right approach to another Jew comes before receiving a spiritual upgrade from HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And that's why we read Pirkei Avot. That's why we read Memchet Kinyanei Torah. That's why, because it teaches us how to interact with other Jews. Which brings us to the 4th layer of this time period. There's another storyline that happens in this 50-day period. This time period is famously known as the mourning period for the 24,000s of Rabbi Akiva that passed away from Pesach to Atzeret. Which, by the way, that's why I have a beard right now. That's why most religious Jews, you see them growing a beard during this time. Why? Because we're in a mourning period. We're showing avlut. For what? For losing 24,000 students that their rabbi was the greatest rabbi in Jewish history, Rabbi Akiva. We have Moshe Rabbeinu, who was the great leader that brought us Torah shebichtav, and Rabbi Akiva was the one responsible with teaching the Torah shebe'al peh. We know that Rabbi Akiva and Moshe Rabbeinu were the only ones to reach the 50th level of wisdom, Shar Nun Shel Binah. It was taken away from Moshe Rabbeinu. It was taken away from Moshe Rabbeinu when the Jewish people sinned with the golden calf. Rabbi Akiva reached the 50 and kept it. So something bothers me about the story, and you tell me if you feel the same. I'm willing to pay extra for air conditioning, by the way. But thank you, Tzaddik. Rabbi Akiva is famously known to say the famous saying, "Ve'ahavta le'reacha kamocha, ze klal gadol b'Torah." Rabbi Akiva is famously known to say that to love another Jew is one of the biggest lessons that you can internalize. Ze klal gadol, it's a foundation of Judaism, to love your neighbor, to love another Jew. To love another Jew the way that you love yourself. Ve'ahavta le'reacha kamocha. Ze klal gadol b'Torah. Even Hillel HaZaken, when the ger came to him and said, "Hey, teach me the whole Torah on one leg," he says, "Ve'ahavta le'reacha kamocha." Whatever you hate, don't do to others. If there was a bumper sticker that had to capsulize the entire Torah, the whole 613 mitzvot, it would be Ve'ahavta le'reacha kamocha. That's the Torah. Follow that rule, you follow the whole Torah. Yet, Rabbi Akiva, famously known for Ve'ahavta le'reacha kamocha, ze klal gadol b'Torah, has 24,000 students, the biggest yeshiva of all time. They died. Imagine having a yeshiva of 24,000 students, and they die. They begin to die by the hundreds, by the thousands. The Gemara reveals to us why. Masechet Yevamot, on the 62nd page, on the second side, says, Ki lo nahagu kavod ze lazeh. They didn't respect each other. They didn't interact with one another in an honorable way. The teacher is famously known for Ve'ahavta le'reacha kamocha, ze klal gadol b'Torah. The students die, Ki lo nahagu kavod ze lazeh. It makes no sense. What happened? What was the disconnect? I'm going to try to use today's terminology in order for it to make sense. The reason why 24,000 students of Rabbi Akiva passed away is because cancel culture seeped into the yeshiva of Rabbi Akiva. Do you guys know what cancel culture is? My way. Only my way. If it's not my way, you have to go. We're living in cancel culture, by the way. Say one thing that the other side doesn't like, you cancel. That was yeshiva. That approach, cancel culture, seeped into the yeshiva of Rabbi Akiva. Because each student believed that his view was the absolute truth. They became individuals divided. They lost their unity. They no longer were the students of Rabbi Akiva. They were individuals where each one had their own ideology, their own thought. Lo nahagu bekavod. Lo nahagu bekavod mean zilzelu bedeat ha'acher. They made light of the other person's opinion. Meaning, I'm so holy, I'm so smart. What I'm thinking of, what I just came up with, you can never get it. You can never understand it. You won't understand. Whether it's because your intellect or your wisdom is limited, or I'm on a much higher level. That's really what happened. Lo nahagu bekavod. They did not interact in a respectful way with one another. They made light of the other person's intellect. They didn't lose the love, by the way. They lost the respect. A very, very strong point that we'll revisit at the end of the class. What does it mean to not lose love, but to lose respect? And we know that limud Torah bli achdut lo mitkayemet. Learning Torah, but not having unity as part of one of your attributes, it doesn't work. Because we have to have achdut and ahava. Only when you have unity and love, brotherly love, that's how the Torah is established. There's nothing uglier than an arrogant or divisive Torah learner. There's nothing uglier than somebody that knows the Torah, learns the Torah, represents the Torah, and yet has arrogance or divisiveness within them. And that's what we had. The famous story of Rabbi Akiva and his 24,000 students. So why would this story happen specifically during the time period between Pesach and Shavuot? Why did they die specifically now? Couldn't they have died in Cheshvan? It's an empty month. There's nothing going on over there. That would have been a great storyline for that time. Any other month. Why did the students of Rabbi Akiva specifically die during this time period between Pesach and Shavuot? Remember, we already did 3 layers of what's going on over here during this 50-day period. This is layer number 4. Do we need a 4th layer to this spiritual prime time? Well, we know that nothing happens by chance, but everything happens by design. They had to die during this time. Remember, we're on a journey to receive the Torah. You cannot truly receive the Torah if there's no achdut. When you're not united with your fellow brothers and sisters, you can't have ben adam lechavero lifnei ben adam lamakom. You can't have a relationship with God before you have a good relationship with other Jews. And we know this because the Jewish people, when they showed up on day 50 in Matan Torah, what does Rashi say over there? Am echad belev echad. They achieved unity. They achieved brotherly love. They achieved a state of Am Yisrael, of Am echad belev echad, that Hashem says, this is the nation that deserves that gnuzah chemda. That chemda gnuzah, that special treasure that I've been saving for 974 generations. This is the generation that is worthy of receiving the Torah. This is what I was waiting for. So when that time period comes around, and that spiritual, the spiritual cyclical year that loops back around and gives us this 50-day time period of spiritual elevation, of physical healing and spiritual healing, we're about to receive the Torah, it's the same thing. There's no gift from God on Shavuot unless you are working on Ben Adam Lechaviro. Ben Adam Lechaviro precedes Ben Adam Lamakom. Cannot be ignored either. Cannot be ignored either. And this is very interesting because it echoes another 50-day period of the year. One of our famous 50-day period of the year that we get so plugged into. The Teshuvah season that starts in Rosh Chodesh Elul and ends in Simchat Torah. Also a 50-day envelope. Oh, by chance? No, by design. How ironic. How ironic that there's another 50-day period, a 50-day journey. I'll refresh your memory. Elul, HaMelech hu basadeh, the king is in the field. And we work on what? Teshuvah. And what do all the rabbis scream on every single derasha, every single shul? Do ben adam lechaviro. Go ask your wife for forgiveness for all the torment that you've done to her for the entire year. And for the ladies, for the husbands. The children, your friends. And you get so nervous, and you start to get all these like generic text messages like, if I ever hurt you, please forgive me, please forgive me, please forgive me. Because they texted you 3 times, please forgive me. Those don't work, they don't work. You have to pick up the phone, you have to connect, you have to ask for real. If you're just sending it, if you're just spamming everybody, then for what? Teshuvah is something real, it's genuine. You hurt somebody and you're making amends. And you get these weird phone calls like a day before Rosh Hashanah. You know, you get that guy that says, yeah, you haven't heard from me for a very long time, but 7 months ago I used your pencil without telling you. Mechila, what? That's what you're calling about? This is about like somebody that you've really hurt throughout the year. Ben Adam lechavero. And once you clear up Ben Adam lechavero, then you can turn to Ben Adam lamakom. I am ready. I am ready for my judgment day. I cleaned up. I did teshuvah from Ben Adam lamakom, Ben Adam lechavero, and we enter Rosh Hashanah, judgment day. We enter Yom Kippurim with work beneath our belt. We're ready. We prepared. It's a happy day. It's a holiday. A little fun fact that maybe you didn't know about Matan Torah. When was the Torah given to us? Shavuot, famous. Well, yes. Shavuot is famously known for Matan Torah, the day that the Torah was given to us. But you know what happened 40 days later? Chet HaEgel, the sin of the golden calf. That was exactly on Yud Zayin Bet Tammuz. And that's when Moshe Rabbeinu broke the tablets. And he went up for 40 days to ask for forgiveness. And he went up for another 40 days to write the second set of tablets. And on Yud Tishrei, on the 10th day of Tishrei, also famously known as Yom Kippur, he came down with the second set of Luchot. So Yom Kippur is also Matan Torah. Yom Kippur is the day where the second tablets were brought down. And in order to receive the Torah, what did we just do for 40 days? Ben Adam lamakom, Ben Adam lechavero. First Ben Adam lechavero, and then we did Ben Adam lamakom. And what did we get at the end of that? Yom Kippur, the Torah. The second set of tablets. And we know that 10 days after that we have Simchat Torah. The happiness of the Torah. What does that do? What is that even doing over there? How did Simchat Torah get there? Because it's part of the journey. Simchat Torah should have been when? Shavuot. Matan Torah, Simchat Torah. But no. Because of Chet HaEgel, because of the 120 days, because of all the things that we had to go through, we have the second Matan Torah on Yom Kippur. And the Simchat Torah, and I can give a longer shmooze about those 10 days in between, but not for today, becomes Simchat Torah. Fast forward to many years later, for the time period of between Pesach and Shavuot, the Omer upgrade that we were just talking about, plus the mourning that we do for the death of the 24,000 students of Rabbi Akiva. And by the way, what are we mourning? Are we really mourning the students? Name me one of their names. Name me one name of the students that can do a hashkava or Eilu Nishmat. Because in reality, we're not mourning the students. You know what we're mourning? The Torah that was lost. You know, when you stand up for a rabbi, why do you stand up? It's not for him as a person. We don't stand up for the rabbi. We stand up for the Torah that's inside the rabbi. He's a walking Sefer Torah. So when he comes in, we stand up for the Torah, not the man. The Torah that's inside of him. So what are we mourning here? We're not mourning the people, because then we'd have their names. It'd be important to honor them. We are mourning the Torah that we lost. Could you imagine 24,000 students of Rabbi Akiva, if they were still around? What the Jewish world would be? It's like the death of Nadav and Avihu. What the world would be? If they were still around, they were higher than Moshe and Aharon, Chazal tell us. Moshe tells us. We mourn the division that happened while the people were in love in the Torah world, but did not respect one another. So, the purpose of this layer is to activate Ahavat Yisrael, activate V'ahavta Lecha Kamocha, activate 49 different attributes of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, checking our 49 points, 49-point test of our soul in accordance to the attributes of the Creator, and to begin to prepare for the receiving the Torah on a higher level, on a higher understanding, and a higher connection. And that's why also the tribe of the month of Iyar is the tribe of Issachar. Issachar, if you take his name, you cut it into two. Yesh Sachar, as the famous pasuk says, Yesh Sachar lepe'ulatayich, as it was told to Rachel Imenu. Yesh Sachar lepe'ulatayich. There is a reward for all this work that you do. All this work that we're talking on, there's a reward to it. Now that we've taken these 4 layers of understanding, let's personalize what we just learned. Let's make it real. Let's make it practical. Let's get a takeaway, something that we step out of these doors and we can really live out. There are 2 sides to every Jew. There's the collective, as Am Yisrael, and then there's the personal, meaning your personal journey. The month of Iyar is the time period when the collective and the personal collide. There's some work that is done as a nation. There's some work that's done on a personal level. The month of Iyar, the avodah of the collective and the individual come together. Every year we begin a personal journey on Shavuot with the gift of the Torah that Hashem gave us. And like we said before, the potential of the Torah that was given to us as a gift. The potential to all the Torah learning, to the Torah upgrade for the next 365, that is the gift. And it's our duty to take advantage of that gift. And if not, that gift is squandered and lost. Imagine, Hashem gives you $1 million worth of, let's use money first and then we'll go to spirituality. Let's just say Hashem gives you, on Shavuot, $10 million. And He gave you the opportunity to earn all $10 million. Fast forward to 365 days later, the next Shavuot, you only took $152. You didn't apply yourself. You didn't make an effort to take everything that was available to you. Similarly is the Torah that's given to us as a gift in Shavuot. It's there in potential. It's up to you to take all of it. And when you come back after 365 days, what you come back with determines what the next gift is going to be. That's why we do this work. We come to show Hashem, you gave me this gift a year ago. Look at what I'm coming back with. Look at the Masechet I finished. Look at the books that I've read. Look at the chesed that I did. Look at the higher understanding that I've had. Look at how I applied myself. Look at how this time I applied myself in my community. How I was a light unto the nations. And Hashem says, you're a good vessel. When I give you something, you know what to do with it. Spiritual upgrade. Bigger gift this year. Because you're the type of guy that when I give him something, you know what to do with it. But a person who squanders that opportunity, that gift of Matan Torah, surely is not the same as someone who applies themselves. And this is exactly why we mourn before Matan Torah. This is why we get into an avlut before the receiving of the Torah. Because we mourn the Torah that died. The students of Rabbi Akiva represent the Torah that died in us. The Torah that was given to us in potential and never made it. Potential unfulfilled. That's the death of the Torah. That's what we're mourning right before Matan Torah. We look like this because we mourn that we did not take advantage of the Torah that was given to us right before Matan Torah. The Torah that was learned with no unity and with no love, that was the Torah that died. And that represents the Torah that's in potential that died with us as well. And when the personal journey collides with the collective journey, you either pass or fail. You know, the Jews, we believe in the resurrection. Tchiyat HaMetim. Coming back from the dead. And the Omer is the spiritual resurrection of the spiritually dead. Or the spiritually numb. Because the 49th day of extensive work on all our middot, it brings us back to life. Do you know when we come back to life? When do the spiritual dead or the spiritual numb, when they apply themselves during this 49-day period, when do they come alive? Chai Iyar. On the 18th day of Iyar. The word Chai means life. Ironically, Chai Iyar is also like Omer. It's also the day where we celebrate the passing of Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, who brought the learning of the Zohar to this world. As a matter of fact, we can go a little bit deeper, that the 32 days that lead up to Lag BaOmer have the numerical value of the word Lev. 32 is Lev. After 32 days of applying yourself, what comes back to life? What starts to pump again? Lev. Your heart. And what happens in Lag BaOmer? The fire is lit. You get lit again. Ner Hashem Nishmat Adam. We say that the soul of a person is like the candle of God is a person's soul. And that big light that we put on, that big fire that bonfire that we put during Lag BaOmer is to represent that what? I'm back. I'm lit. I'm on fire. I'm back. I was spiritually numb. I was spiritually dead. I'm back to life. I put in the work. And the 17 days after that, 17 is the same numerical value of the word Tov. Now I'm on the right path. As we say, Sur Mera Va'aseh Tov. Remove yourself from bad and start to get on a path of good. Sur Mera is all the work you did up until then. Once you get to that point, you have 17 days left, you're on the path of Tov. You're on the path to the journey to Tov, as the Torah is called Tov. As it says, Ki lekach Tov natati lachem, et Torati al ta'azovu. Lekach Tov, what is the good item that God gave us? That's the Torah. Et Torati. So we see we have a bit of a resurrection. We come back to life. And this reminded me of what we learned with the Netivot Shalom a few months ago in Parashat Shemot. The Netivot Shalom asks a very famous question, or a very interesting question. It says that Am Yisrael yatzu b'chipazon, that the Jewish people left Egypt in a hurried state, hurriedly. Why? Oh, because they were on the 49th level to a Shar Memtet. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, if this is the red zone, the danger zone, you don't want to get to the 49th level, in a split second you can slip into 50 and there's no turning back, leave it 48. Leave it 47. Leave it 46. Why are we playing it so close to the edge? Why did we have to wait to the 49th and the split second and now we have to go? Why did we have to wait for the last minute before we left? Why didn't we leave when we were on the 48th level of Tumah, 47th level of Tumah? So the Netivot Shalom brings a beautiful example, a beautiful explanation from the Zohar about Hayita de Kasuta. He says a seed, when you put it into the ground, it decomposes till it gets to the last burst of energy that's left in it. And right before it rots and completely dies out, with the last bit of energy that's in that rotting seed, it bursts forth with a sprout. It sprouts a new plant, a new tree. And that process cannot happen until the seed gets to that final point, and the last bit of energy that it has, it begins to sprout. It can't happen a minute or 10 minutes or an hour or a day or a week before that. It has to be that specific way. That's how agriculture happens. That's how that's how the seeds grow inside the ground, in case you didn't know. It's called germination. And he says similarly to the Jewish people. They had to get to the lowest level of the 49th gate of Tum'ah, and just before they're completely rotting and becoming to the point of no return, boom, they sprout forward. Am Yisrael. Kisuta de Chayuta. When the old self dies and it gives way to new life. That's how we became the Jewish people. That was our collective journey of Yetziat Mitzrayim. So much that when the Jewish people reached the ocean, Sar Hayam said, I am not splitting for this nation. And the claim was, Halal of the Avodah Zarah, Halal of the Avodah Zarah. They look identical to the Egyptians. Spiritually, they're no better than their enemies. They're no better than the Egyptians. I was supposed to split for the Jewish nation. Am Segula, a light unto the nations. I see here fake Egyptians. 49 levels of Tum'ah. So the Jewish people had to get to that lowest level to rot completely as a nation in order to do what? To get our collective rebirth. That was the beginning of Am Yisrael. Just like that rotting seed that rots and then sprouts, that was the journey of Am Yisrael. That's what Netivot Shalom says. So that was our rebirth or birth as a nation. We had to rot before we came to life. Our personal rebirth, meaning that's collectively for us as Am Yisrael, our personal rebirth happens during the Omer. Happens during this time period. Where the old self dies out because of two choices that were made. Either the missed opportunity on the Torah potential that was given to you and you didn't capitalize on it, or the fulfilled potential. Both ways, whether you were successful or you failed at the potential the Torah was given to you as a gift, that old version of you dies. And a new version of you begins in Shavuot, when the new gift, when the new potential is given to you. So what do we mourn? We mourn the death of our older selves. The Torah that we have, or the Torah that we lost. And on Iyar, on Lag BaOmer, the fire gets rekindled. Specifically on that day, we come back to life. Just like we were given birth as a nation, now we give birth to ourselves. We come back to life. The good and the bad, with clarity of the daily Omer work, we make a final sprint to Matan Torah, the yearly upgrade. This is even hinted in the parashiot of this time period. Next week we're going to read Acharei Mot Kedoshim. After death, holy. After the death of our older selves comes what? The newer, holier version of ourselves. We saw it in the zodiac signs. That we started off as a lamb, Taleh. We matured into a shor, which is the work that we're doing during the Omer. And just next month, Teomim, we're going to be able to reflect God. Even the beginning of the Omer, I had another layer. In the time of Bet HaMikdash, there's a pasuk that says in Vayikra, Ve'evetem et Omer reshit kotzechem el hakohen. In the time of Bet HaMikdash during Pesach, they would bring the Omer. And the Omer is Omer se'orim, barley. Ma'achal behema. It was a type of a grain that only animals eat. And that's what we bring in the beginning of the 49-day journey. And then, right before Shavuot, what do we bring? We bring shtei halechem, made from wheat. Wheat is food, it is ma'achal adam. We know that there's one thing that man can eat day in and day out and never get tired from it. It's bread, wheat. So we start the process with food that's worthy of an animal. Ma'achal behema, omer se'orim. And we finish the process with what? With shtei halechem, meaning ma'achal adam. That represents how we went out from 49 gates of Tum'ah and entered 49 gates of Kedusha, and we changed. The Torah that was lost with the 24,000 students of Rabbi Akiva, that represents the sad. That's the mourning. However, the fire that we light on Lag BaOmer represents the Torah that was gained, the Torah of the Zohar, the Idra, that we got from Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai. And over there's happy and there's dancing. So we have what? We're mourning and we're happy. We're ascending while mourning. While we're mourning for the lost Torah, we're getting excited and happy for the new Torah that we're receiving. And we did receive a new Torah. We received the Torah of the Pnimiyut, which is the Zohar. I'd like to conclude with two final thoughts. We are in a spiritual prime time that's stacked with layers of upgrades. The famous one that even a child knows, Iyar, Ani Hashem Rofecha, the month that is auspicious for spiritual and physical healing. But now we also understand that there's another layer over here, the death of your old self and the rebirth of your new self. The death of the used and unused potential of the previous year, and the rebirth of the new self, the Chai Iyar, the coming to life again, preparing yourself for the new gift. Because keep in mind, mourning promotes introspect. When people lose somebody, it puts them in a state of introspect. If you ever go to a funeral, it makes you think twice about life. Every time when you come out of a funeral, there's always that guy. What are we fighting about? I don't know why I keep arguing with my wife. Life is so short. 10 seconds later, he's hammering her on the phone. Why? Because mourning promotes introspect. And that's what we do during this time period. The introspect, the death of the old self. What did we do? How did we lose out? What was my service to Hashem during this 365-day period? And once we understand, my chesed sheba gvura is off. My netzach sheba malchut is off. My hod sheba hod is off. Which, by the way, Lag BaOmer is what? Hod sheba hod. Balance. You get to the point of balance. Chayar, Lag BaOmer, Hod sheba hod is where a person becomes balanced in the service of Hashem. And understanding where he stands. We're preparing ourselves for the yearly gift of the Torah, Shavuot. Like we said in the beginning of the class, maybe Shavuot was always that holiday where some people counted and then we had cheesecake. But now you understand that Shavuot is way greater than that. Shavuot is the yearly gift, the free gift that we get from God, according to our previous service or the previous taking advantage of the previous year's gift. Interestingly enough, there's no one Matan Torah. There's actually three. We received the Torah 3 times. Very interesting. The first time that we received it was in Shavuot. Everyone knows that one. Where we stood in front of the mountain and we yelled out to God, Na'aseh v'nishma. We're willing to receive the entire Torah. Later on, tell us all the details. And that's when we famously received the Torah Shebichtav. We had some problems with Torah Shebe'al Peh. We had some problems with the rabbis. Not everybody accepted it. We had all these sects that were for it, against it, so on and so forth. But in the time of Purim, as the Megillah reveals to us, Kimu v'kiblu. It's another way of saying Naaseh v'nishma. They received upon themselves the Torah again, but which Torah? Torah shebechtav, Torah shebe'al peh, ve'harabanim. In Purim we accepted the Torah. We accepted it. There wasn't a mountain on top of our head forcing us to accept it. And in the holiday of Purim, we accepted the written Torah, the oral Torah, and we accepted the rabbi's rulings. That was the second Matan Torah. And the third one is in Lag BaOmer, when we received the Torah of the Zohar, the Torah of the Pnimiut, the beginning of Hasidut. That's our happiness of Lag BaOmer. It showed us a new path, a new way, how to interact with each other from the inside. Unity and love together, which was lacking of that generation of that time. Our introspect and character refinement promotes new inspiration and desire to be a spiritual success right before Shavuot. When you look deep into your ways and to your spiritual performance up until now, and when you take a look at yourself, am I still the same me? Have I changed? Has my speech improved? Do I still use vulgar word and profanity? How's my shmirat enayim? Am I still protecting my eyes and making sure that my eyes don't see things that are not appropriate and not tzniut? How am I dressing? Am I dressing appropriately? Do I wear a kippah when I go out in the street? Do I have derech eretz? Am I respectful to my wife? Do I treat my children with respect? 49-point check where you are right now as a mensch, as an individual, as a Jew. Because right before Shavuot, this introspect is going to make a big difference on what gift Hashem is going to give you, and which Torah is going to be revealed to you, what spiritual upgrade you're going to get. If you're sitting here on a Thursday night at 10 o'clock listening to a Rosh Chodesh class, you're looking for a spiritual upgrade. You're looking for a higher level experience in the service of Hashem. Don't sit in a class and not put in the work. Sit down with yourself. Create some time to audit yourself. We have books. We have Sefirot. We have classes. We have booklets that tells you every single day what to look for. And if you don't have it in you, all you have to do is live it out. All you have to do is do it one time. Plant the seed that if I was missing the chesed sheba netzach, then I just say, oh, harmony and love. I need to increase my empathy and compassion. Oh, hang on a second. Hey, babe, I'm really sorry that you're having a bad day. Empathy. I just want you to know that I love you. Love. I have empathy and love. I just planted that seed. Hopefully I stay focused on it and carry it up for the rest of the year. But the work you do during the Omer, the seeds that you plant, will bear fruit in the future. This is a time where we focus on realignment. Ben Adam lechavero and Ben Adam lamakom. And it's interesting. It reminded us of Elul. It's interesting. It's reminding us of the Teshuvah season. But it's something that is on the top of God's list. Is Achdut. Shema Yisrael, Hashem Elokeinu, Hashem Echad. Hashem is one, and He wants us to be one. He gave the Torah to a nation that was one. Am Echad Belev Echad. He's looking for us to twin that generation of Naaseh v'nishma. He's looking for another generation of Naaseh v'nishma Jews. The old version of ourselves needs to die to give way to the new you. The new individual and collective version of ourselves. This year and every year. The flames inside begin to flare on Lamed Gimel, on Lag BaOmer. A day before that, your heart starts to pump Lamed Bet, because we show the world our Pnimiut. We go out into the world and we dance with the fire, saying we are excited for the service of Hashem. It's a pre-party to Matan Torah. We show this newfound fervor and excitement for receiving the Torah and Torah lifestyle. Just like Am Yisrael, after being attacked by Amalek and Rephidim, which also happened in this time period, we come and we show, no, we're locked in again. Our flames get lit, relit, and enlarged by our spiritual work of the Omer. Now I know that after sitting for a full hour talking about Sefirot, 49 days, every day, some of you might have tapped out the minute you heard 49. You might say this is a very lofty endeavor. The Omer, the journey to Shavuot, the rebirth. Nice. I don't have time for all that. I don't have the skills for all that. I don't have the power for all that. You wasted your time with me. And I can appreciate that. Not everybody makes it to the top of Mount Everest. Not everybody can apply themselves fully in one life. However, maybe we can focus on one thing. And even if you win one of these items, you become a better version of yourself, which is the ultimate purpose of this whole Omer period. Just to become a better version of yourself. You 2.0. I want to revisit the story of Rabbi Akiva's 24,000 students. Shelo nahagu bekavod ze lazeh. That there was love, but there was no respect. There was Torah, but there was no derech eretz. And we know that derech eretz kadma la Torah. Before you receive the Torah, you have to have derech eretz. You have to interact properly with people. So we see that it can be a reality where there's people in our lives that we love, but we disrespect. There's people that we love, but there's no kavod. Shelo nohagim bekavod ze lezeh. When we couple Torah shebichtav with Torah shebe'al peh and Torah pnimiyut, when we take the oral Torah, the written Torah, and the Torah that was revealed to us through Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, which is the Zohar, the pnimiyut, the inner workings of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, a new outlook entered the world. How to able to tolerate one another. V'ahavta et re'acha kamocha, lamrot shu lo kamocha. To love somebody else, even though that he's not like you. And I can prove this to you in the story of Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai. Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai hid in a cave for 12 years. And he reached spiritual heights like no other person before in history. He says, he says that he alone can take the strict judgments on this world on his shoulders. And during his time, there was no deen. As long as Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, there's no deen in the world. Many stories of him and his interactions with the angel of death, so on and so forth. But it's very interesting. When he was in the cave, he came out on the 12th year, and he saw a guy plowing the field. And he saw, is that a Jew plowing the field? He looked at him. He gave him these X-ray eyes, these two like beams of light that came out of his eyes, and he turned them into gala shel atzamot. He turned them into a pile of bones. A voice came out from the heavens and said, Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, what did you come into the world to destroy it? Go back to the cave. Go back to the cave. Why? Because Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai didn't accept that other Jew. He says, how are you dealing with the mundane when you can be dealing with the spiritual? How are you not stagging away in a yeshiva? What are you doing here growing potatoes? Zap! HaKadosh Baruch Hu tells them, no, that's not our way. That's not v'ahavta l'cha kamocha. That's cancel culture. If you're not like me, you have to go. HaKadosh Baruch Hu tells him, back to the cave. And he goes there for another year, and after the 13th year in the cave, he comes out, and he lets everyone be. Even though that he's not like you. And that's when the written Torah and the oral Torah and the pnimiyut of the Zohar lived side by side. Sometimes our rebuke of our loved ones comes with no respect. Sometimes we feel that we love them so much that we have to talk in a certain way so they can get the point. You know why I'm telling you this? You know why I'm yelling at you? You know why I'm saying all this with harsh words? Because I love you. It's for your own good. The 24,000s of Rabbi Akiva taught us, she'ahava bli kavod, love with no respect is destructive. You can love someone, but you can also destroy them. Ahava and kavod have to go hand in hand. Just because you love someone doesn't mean you're allowed to disrespect them. That happens in marriages, that happens between parents and children, that happens between friends, that happens between people in the community. Just because you have a closeness, it does not give you a pass to disrespect. Definitely not if you're a Torah Jew. And Me'ezrat Hashem, we take upon ourselves at least that, not to make the same mistake of the 24,000 students of Rabbi Akiva, to have a love for another Jew, but to disrespect him. May this time period yield a version of ourselves that is lit and connected to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. May we be united and connected to each other. The Be'emet, we have true Achdut, which is the secret of the Jewish people. May Derech Eretz precede our Torah learning. It's so important to have manners and to interact in a positive way with each other. Whether we know, whether it's the people within our inner circle, family circle, work circle, or a random Jew in the street, or even the Goyim. We love all God's children. They're all God's creations. We're supposed to be a light unto the nation. May we act with respect to every single one. Go out into the world with a smile and with a thank you, and with a hello, and excuse me, and pardon me, and how can I help you? There's nothing wrong with being a mensch. Hashem hired us for that role. May we merit to be Am Echad Belev Echad and bring the fourth Matan Torah. Oh, another one? Yes, there's another one coming. There's Torah Shebichtav, Torah Shebe'al Peh, Torah the Pnimiyut of the Zohar, and there's the Torah of Mashiach. Mashiach is bringing a new Torah with him. It's the same Torah, only with better, higher understanding. Rabbi Shlita explains the difference between the Torah that we know right now and the Torah during the time of Mashiach. He says the Torah that we know right now, even if you reach the 49 levels of wisdom, which is the highest that you can achieve, it's like going to the ocean and taking a bucket. The water in the bucket is level 49. The rest of the water in the ocean is level 50. And that's the time of Mashiach. The fourth time that we're going to be receiving the Torah, but on a much higher level. May we merit to being constantly motivated, to be constantly plugged into the spiritual energies of the year, on Rosh Chodesh, on Shabbatot, on day to day, to be constantly in a state of growth and live up to our true potential, and to live with a healthy body and a healthy soul. And may Hashem notice our efforts and reward them and heal all Am Yisrael to merit physical and spiritual healing and the ultimate Geula. Hashem Baruch Atchem, Sameach Atchem. Thank you for coming. She'have a Rosh Chodesh Tov v'Shabbat Shalom.